Hi, my name is Rachel McLeod. I'm a licensed clinical social worker and emotional wellness coach and mental health therapist. And today I want to talk about a very important topic that's going to hopefully open your eyes to see things new and really give you direction in your healing work, in your relationship repair work, and really help sort things out, give you an easy way of looking at things and a really functional way of looking at things. And so I specialize in helping people do the brain work for resolving symptoms of anxiety, depression, and traumatic stress. The brain has a beautiful process for this, and we want the brain to sort this out. If you sort this out from your thinking center, that doesn't mean that your body nor your subconscious mind are going to allow you to make the shifts that you're asking for. If your body is afraid of what you want it to do, it's not going to do it. And it's going to be working against you day and night, night and day. You don't want that kind of separation in your inner world. You want harmony, unity, and synergy. And it really is so valuable to walk your subconscious mind, your body through their process of becoming, of getting it, of learning how to do the thing you want to do, to learn that it's safe to do it, to go through their process for getting aligned to the direction the mind, you want to go. And so that's really the work I specialize in. That's my entire perspective here, what I'm going to be walking you through. And it's really powerful. It takes a little bit longer in the beginning to make the switch and to wait for your body and your mind to go through their process, and also to learn how to lead them and support them through their process, not interfere with it and interrupt it like we normally do. Okay. And so, um, but it's really, really worth it because when they get it, they get it, and they will drag you along in the direction that you want to go. And that is really traumatically, I don't know, maybe I'm not, that might be a word here, but it's really dramatically different than when we're pulling ourselves through it. We're pushing through things, we're efforting, and it's not working very well. So this is really exciting to see. This is where my clients, when this shift happens, they're like, is this magic? No, this is healthy brain function. This is how it's supposed to work in your inner world. It's supposed to be easy. It's supposed to resolve. We're supposed to get free and do all the things we want to do, which leads me to the title of today's topic of the chat that we're going to have, which is the impact of survival mode on relationships. Okay, so I want to help you understand that survival mode is a brain function, is the way is how the brain is responding. There are different parts of the brain that are lighting up and becoming very active during survival mode. This is not a thing that you will choose to do. You don't get to just say, okay, today I'm going to use my whole brain function, or today I'm going to use only survival mode. This is something that your brain chooses for you. It happens in a split second. It can be happening because of something that's going on. It can be happening because something that is reminding your brain of something that happened in the past. Your brain can shift you into survival mode for any reason at all. If it believes you're in danger, it will step right in to shift you into survival mode. Um, and unfortunately, this part of the brain is not great at anything but survival. It's brilliant at survival. Your survival mode. I mean, that's why we're here. That's why we have kept going for so long as humans, because we have survival mode, and that part of the brain is good. But it's not good at connection, intimacy, problem solving. It's not wired for that. It doesn't even know how to do that. It's not good for talking. It's not a word center. It's not good at seeing things from multiple perspectives. It doesn't do that. It only cares about your perspective. It only cares about you and keeping you alive. It doesn't care about your children, your relationships. It doesn't care about your marriage, your employees. Does not. That part of the brain doesn't care. We it and it, The sooner we really grasp that, the better this will be. When we are operating under that part of our brain function, that's what's happening. It doesn't care about these other things. It's got a checklist in there. Are we going to live? Are we going to die? right? That's it. Are we going to survive this? Or are we not? It's not like, hey, are we going to keep our relationship intact? Are we going to thrive? Are we going to have more unity? Are we going to have, no, that is not on this list. That's really why we want to make sure that in your relationships, you are functioning from a whole brain state instead of just sucked into a survival system state, a survival mode. And so what happens if we are in rest and digest and we're feeling safe, we will use all parts of our brain. Everybody's working together well. There's synergy and harmony. The second the survival system thinks we're in danger, all that starts shutting down. That part of the survival system will shut down your whole brain function, the prefrontal cortex to about 20% effectiveness, right? And then you'll see that survival system be very, very active. And the rest of the brain is really used under the jurisdiction and rulership, dictatorship of the survival system. It does not give anyone choices. Choices are a whole brain function. If you are compelled, you have to, and you're doing it. It is you. That's a good sign. You're in a survival mode. You don't have choices or options. You must do what your survival system tells you to do, and that's going to look like fight, flight, freeze, faint, fawn, collapse. And there's a couple of other ones that have entered the scene that are not coming to my mind right now. But you can see that those things just don't sound very good for relationships, and they're really not. They're really not good for relationships. They're really bad for them. And so, but when you're in that part of the brain, that when you're in survival mode, you don't have an option to go ahead and use your whole brain. And so that's really a big deal. So you can't use the parts of the brain that know how to thrive, how to create intimacy, how to problem solve, how to see things from multiple perspectives. You don't get to use those parts of your brain in survival mode, right? You don't get to see things from your children's perspective, your husband's, your coworker's perspective. That's not happening in there under survival mode. And this is why you might have noticed, gosh, my mom never is always thinking about herself. My mom never sees me. My mom never, or usually we can pick up other people's survival mode and not when we're doing it. So I'm going to use a couple of examples there because it will help us then turn in and understand what we're doing as well. So, but when we have that going on, really, I nod and say yeah, they are being very selfish. They are not seeing, and I'm a fan of selfishness, but what they're really talking about is that they're not having any empathy. They're not seeing things from their perspective. They're only holding on to their own perspective. I'm like, she's in a survival state. And it doesn't necessarily mean that you've done something wrong. This is more people than you know are dealing with post-traumatic stress disorder, and unresolved trauma in relationships and attachments and all these things. And so that in those disorders, the brain is functioning and operating a lot of the time in survival mode. Right. And so when we can see that, we can see they're not trying to be a selfish person. They're not trying to not see you from multiple perspectives. They cannot. Those parts of the brain are not functioning. That the brain has shut those things down. And survival mode's a trip too, because when you try to access and activate other parts of the brain, like the reasoning center, hey, mom or spouse, hey, I'm not your enemy. The part of the brain to get them to reason and see and shift out of survival mode, that part of the brain will actually fight you and be irritable and slash at you, and and no, I put myself in survival mode. I'm not coming out. Don't talk to me about reasoning. And so we have all these dynamics at play that have to do with survival mode, with just how the brain is functioning. And when you can see this and also know that we can manually shift the brain out of there. We cannot talk the brain out of survival mode. Okay, there is a strategy to doing that. You have to be very, very good. And it has to do with a lot of empathy and a lot of groundedness. And usually it's not very fast. I don't rely on it. I'm not trying to rely on it. There are some people that specialize in this. I'm not one of them. And I don't even know how they do it. I'd like to review their work just to see. Okay, but there is a way to do that. And you really have to, I'm going to go all into the things, but we can shift it over by talking to the survival system in its native language. which is the body. We can use the body to send messages of safety that will quickly switch it out quickly in seconds. And I have people use some interventions that are designed for this to really send those messages of safety to that part of the brain. And when they're finished with with a round of the intervention, like 30 seconds or 2 minutes, they were able to process stuff and to regulate and ground and become calm and shift out of that danger survival mode state. And so there are ways to manually operate this and to really get your brain to switch from survival mode to I don't really have a name for the other one because there's so many things. This is how the brain creates maturity, growth, mastery, um, connection, problem solving. It's like could be the problem solving mode, but it just seems not enough. Um, Reorganization mode, we could say that. But we want to switch the brain into that healing mode. That's accurate too. I wish there was a word that combined it all together. If you got that word, put it in the comments, please. Um, but we can make that shift, and when we can make that shift, that really empowers us in so many ways. And so, but I'm off track because I want to talk about how to heal this and how to work through this. But I want to talk about this a little bit more. um, so it really this is not a choice. And so when you are in your relationships and you're actually in survival mode, please expect your relationships to look like survival mode has shown up, chopped everything up, made you freeze, made you fawn over all the things you're agreeing to, things you don't even like. You're right. All of that stuff is happening. That's not great conflict resolution. That's not being authentic to yourself, having integrity. We can't. Survival mode doesn't allow for those things because it doesn't care. It will give up all of our values, our morals, our decisions, our goals, everything. Have you ever had a goal and you're working on it, you're doing really well, you hit survival mode and you are back at it. Maybe you were going to stop smoking or drinking or calling this ex or this or that, and you're doing great, but then you get really triggered and you run right on back. Right? That's you didn't have a choice at that point. But really where we have a choice is how we have so much influence over survival mode. So much more. Um, but in our relationships, um, it's really, really important that we can see that survival mode is about reactions, and processing mode, I'm going to call it processing mode for this, is really, and reorganization mode is a whole another bag of worms. This is where we are reviewing the information. We are considering the best response. And mind you, they sound like long processes, but we're working on this from we're using electrical processes. So these are lightning fast. You might not even notice them as they get better and better and better. And they're happening. So we're getting accurate. We're reading the information that's available in the moment. We're present to the moment. We're regulated. We are able to use our values and our morals and our problem solving. We're able to see things from multiple perspectives. That's all through the processing mode. Survival mode is just reaction. We are relying heavily on subconscious programming. Now, pause right there because our subconscious programming is highly influenced by whoever programmed us between our ages of 0 and 7. So when brains shut down, we're going to use our survival mode. That's a time when our subconscious mind was unfiltered and we were highly programmable. Now, if you were programmed by people that have healthy relationships and know how to thrive and really were in a whole brain state, then rock on, use that programming, right? But if you, like a lot of us, were programmed by people that were mentally ill, were dealing with addictions, were overwhelmed, traumatized, physically ill, and and really that stuff was shaping their life, which is a lot of survival mode, brains in a survival state. That means that we have learned how to use a lot of not very good programming and strategies. And we're programmed with that. And some of my clients will tell me, I'm just not programmed for healthy relationships. And no, you're not. You're absolutely not. Then we need to do that now. We need to get you programmed now for healthy relationships. But let's not sit and be like, well, maybe I am, or maybe this is just a state that I found myself in that's unique. No, absolutely not. I'm looking at your parents, what you told me, and your relationships, and you're not programmed for healthy relationships. Welcome to the club, and let's get your brain doing that now. Right. And parents tell me about their children. I'm worried that I'm passing this dysfunction to my children. You are. So, and let's make sure your brain can do what it needs to do to also pass along the solution and healthy values and not values and morals. You will also do those, but healthy subconscious programming. That's the word I'm looking for. There's not a way around that. And so we can really, I mean, I don't mean to be harsh, but we really, if we can get a grip of what's going on here, we have a lot of power, and we can worry about it, and we can, oh, dread it. But the truth is, this is actually how brains grow, how we're programmed, how we program others. And we have a lot of influence over it if we start to get it right. And our brains will organize very, very fast. In relationships, you know that there's a lot of survival mode running if you have a lot of confusion. If people are confused, I'm saying this to you, but you're not picking up what I'm picking up, and I'm putting down, and there's just confusion here. Their survival mode is happening somewhere. It's either your own survival mode or the other, and often it's both. Um, if we can, in that moment, shift into a processing state, all of a sudden you're getting accurate. There's more clarity. That part of the brain makes clarity for you. It makes all the things you need to thrive. It's a thriving center. That's its whole job. And so we want to shift over there as often as we can and to live in that state, because we it's not accurate that we spend so much time in survival mode. We're actually all pretty kind of used doing kind of well. Um, Another sign that says that we're in survival mode is if we're not seeing each other accurately. If you're talking about this and maybe you're talking with your kid and they're like, no, it wasn't like that. It wasn't like that. And you're having this, yes, it was like this. And they're like, it wasn't. And you can't shift gears to get on the same page. Well, tell me what it was like. I'm sorry, I must have misunderstood something. Let me tell it to me again. Let's try again. And then you talk, and now they're like, yes, that's it. That's the one. You were able to get into a place where you could see it from their perspective. But the other one is really that you're not able to do that. You're probably in a survival state. Your brain is functioning in a different pattern than it would from a whole brain state. If you've got a lot of defensiveness in your relationship, that defensiveness is absolutely the sign that you're in a survival state. There's not a lot of thriving that's going to take place there. The part of the brain that does thriving is not happening freely and at its highest capacity when we're in a defensive state. So those are good signs. Hey, I'm in a different brain state than the one I want to be in. Um, when you have lots of power and control dynamics, when you have the push and the pull, and you have dismissing and deflecting and denying, those are signs of this survival system state. Whether you're doing it, whether other people are accusing you of doing it, whether they're doing it, whoever's doing it is in a survival state. And it's often, if that's being done to us, it will push us also into a survival state. And so these are this, right? And survival states are expensive. They are very expensive emotionally, neurologically, energetically, physically, chemically. They're expensive. And so we will drain ourselves the more that we are in survival states. Our relationships become heavy and exhausting and all this stuff. That's usually because we actually are not getting the right part of our brain involved with the relationship. And many times we can't because we're not using the right strategies. We don't know how to switch ourselves out. Maybe we still are in a place where we don't believe. And so I get that. And so it might be time for some experiments, some science, before and after using, being in the state, using an intervention to see if you get a different result, and see what happens. Gather some data. But when we are in a whole brain state, gosh, there's so much beautiful things that happen. I wish I could tell you all about them, but I watched the trainings of interpersonal neurobiology and the reports of what's going on in the brain, and I am failing anatomy and allergies, so I can't even tell you about it, but it is awesome. So one day I'll be able to explain that. But because there's social parts of the brain that become active, and there's, and it's really cool. However, when we'll know that we're seeing that part of the brain function when we have synergy. If synergy is showing up, that means you are in a whole brain state. You are rocking this. All parts of your brain are working on this. Your values, your morals, your insights, your clarity, your giving words to thoughts and feelings is happening. Accuracy is happening. There's a lot of beauty that's happening there. When you are in that mode, you're also able to create and maintain environments where it's safe, stable, and secure to connect, to be vulnerable, and that's beautiful. We need that. We need that with our children. We need that with our spouses. We need that with our relationships, our family members, our the people we are working with and collaborating with. These are things that we need, and we have a whole part of our brain that will help us create that if we can get it running, right? So we'll also see win-win scenarios. We'll see win-win interaction, win-win creations between groups of people that will be able to do the front brain activities enough, like seeing things from other people's perspective, problem solving, those sorts of things that help create win-win, not win-lose dynamics or lose-win dynamics or lose-lose dynamics. We'll actually be able to do the work of win-win, and we'll see that with our children, right? Our relationships, our spouses, our partners, our family. And that's really, really what we want. We want to train people to expect win-win interactions with us, right? We want to be able to hold that long enough. We need our whole brain working together, not in a survival state. And this is not your fault if this is not happening. This is a brain state thing. It just needs to shift. Also, you'll see intimacy, which means into me, see. And you'll have accuracy there. This is where I believe people come alive and become real. I know that's a weird thing. It's like that Velveteen Rabbit thing. It's like if you play with the stuffed animal, it becomes real. If you see a human accurately and they see you seeing them, this is where beautiful things happen. Creation happens. People get more access to themselves. They reveal more to themselves. There is an energy going back between the two, the seer and the seen, that is one of the most powerful things humans can experience. And to have enough safety and whole brain function to create that is really the deal. It's really what we're after here. And it can only happen in a front brain state. So it is so important in our relationships to show up in a whole brain state as often as we can. And really, what is interesting here is that when I'm working with people, all we're doing for the majority is flipping, finding the brain, where is it going into a survival state, and shifting and getting the brain to reorganize so that it stops going into survival mode in that environment or with that trigger or with that space. So we're retraining all this stuff, we're redirecting, and pretty soon the brain will hold that itself. And it will gain more and more momentum, and it will get used to being in a whole brain state. And so it'll do that more and more, and it will look to be in that. And so there's a lot of momentum that begins, and then it starts repatterning, rewiring over there. This is really empowering, and it's a way to kind of clean up your life of survival mode activators. And that gives you the stance and the grounding to just make your life better and better, make your relationships better and better. And even if you can't, like, I don't ever work from a let's switch it all now. If we can make that 1% shift we're 1% more in thriving processing mode, and rest and digest, healing, reorganizing mode. Gosh, the momentum, it's a snowball effect. It's really, really powerful. And every little 1% makes everything so much better. It's so powerful. And that steamroll happens fast. Brains love this. And so gosh, that 1% seems so small, but it is so not. I cannot say that enough. But what I want to say here is that if you're looking at your life based on these symptoms and you have a high number of evidences that you're spending a lot of time in survival mode, then it's really time to really make this shift. We want to get you so that your brain is functioning optimally in the thriving patterns, functions more and more and more. And so I teach interventions for this, three interventions for inner world transformation. It's we're switching from survival mode brain state over to processing brain state. That's really the entire thing that we're doing. And so I teach three interventions. I teach this to my therapy clients and coaching clients. I teach this to anybody who will grab it because, hello, healthy brain function. It works wonders, miracles on every aspect of our life. And so I teach the three of these for free in my online program. That's available I linked to it in the comments, in the description. And jump on there. Let me teach you these three. Try them out. Try them on everything. See if they do this switch for you. See if they help your brain turn on all the lights upstairs and really start to make change in your life, shifts in your life, make things easier. Watch yourself thrive instead of survive in different scenarios. And so, and then if you want to go deeper and go farther with these strategies, I've developed a process to really do layer after layer after layer of cleaning up one's life of survival modes. This is how I help people resolve disorders like generalized anxiety disorder, major depressive disorder, complex PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. This is really what I do to help them regain their life, thrive in relationships, reach their goals, really live a fulfilling life after having experienced some of these things. So if that's something you'd like to do, that's available. I have that also on my website. My entire program is there. You can just walk yourself through it. Also, I am doing an intensive program as well. And so that if you want to work with me directly, you want me coaching you, go ahead and look at my website about that under intensive coaching, and we'll do this. And so either one of these things will teach you how to make this shift, how to get your brain to resolve these issues in your life for you, how to get your brain to resolve symptoms of anxiety, depression, and traumatic stress. Those are actually signs the brain is trying to heal and is having a problem with that. It can't make that switch. So we help it do that, and then you watch those symptoms resolve and not show up anymore. So wonderful connecting with you. I'm going to go. It was lovely. I would love to hear your reflections on this, your experiences with survival mode on relationships, and if you found things that worked. I'd love to hear if you tried the interventions and are using them and the results you're getting. Put them in the comments. I would love to hear about that. And I will see you all later. Take care.